Hi, before we start, I'd just like to say I'm in a different place at the moment. I'm visiting my brother who is rather ill. So if the video quality and the sound quality are not quite up to scratch, that's the reason. Okay, and now let's get into the video. Nigel Farage just can't stay out of trouble over donations, can he? The Reform UK leader may have fallen foul of parliamentary rules over donations from a long-term supporter called Posh George. George Cottrell, to use his proper name, is a cryptocurrency tycoon and convicted fraudster. Farage says he did not have to declare any of his donations because they were made in a purely personal capacity. But were they? There are several alarm bells ringing here. Firstly, Farage seems to be building up a support network made of crypto billionaires. That's not a sign of corruption or other improper behavior in itself. Farage has himself campaigned for cryptocurrencies to have a more favorable regulation system, so it follows on that he would attract support from similarly minded people. If his policy has been bought, it would be a different matter. But when Farage repeatedly champions crypto-friendly policies while accepting huge sums of money from wealthy crypto figures in financial deals that have not been fully disclosed, that becomes enough to warrant investigation. In any event, this matter could go away due to other developments. The government has already capped donations from UK citizens living overseas at £100,000 per donor, and is planning to prevent overseas voters who move to the UK from donating more than that amount for a year after their arrival. This would curtail donations from Reform UK's biggest supporters. Thailand-based Christopher Harborne gave Reform £12 million in 2025 and a further £3 million in January this year, while Hong Kong crypto billionaire Ben Dello donated £4 million between January and March. There's another measure in the Representation of the People Bill that will potentially hit Reform UK hard, but we'll get to that soon enough. The principal question here is one of influence. Can very wealthy individuals use money to gain privileged access to political leaders or shape public policy? Farage would argue that they cannot, and that people like Harborne support him because they already agree with his views on issues such as cryptocurrency and regulation. His critics argue that repeated large donations from individuals with direct commercial interests in crypto create, at the very least, an appearance of potential influence that requires full disclosure. But to demonstrate improper influence, we would need to see evidence of donors asking for specific policy changes, Farage altering policy in response, and communications showing expectations of favourable treatment. None of that has been publicly demonstrated so far. Moving on, does Cottrell being a convicted criminal matter? Legally, no. Parliament does not prohibit MPs from receiving gifts from someone because that person has a criminal conviction. The political aspect is a different kettle of fish, though. Cottrell admitted wire fraud in the United States after an FBI sting operation involving supposed money laundering. He served 8 months in prison. Those facts are not in dispute. There is also the fact that the fraud stems from his claim that he did not intend to launder the money, despite telling an undercover FBI agent that he would. Instead, he said he was going to keep it for himself. Voters are entitled to judge whether they are comfortable with someone with that history acting as a close advisor and benefactor to a UK political party leader. Finally, we come to the key question. Should Farage have declared the donation from Cottrell? Farage's defence is that the support was provided before he became an MP. He was acting as a private individual rather than as a politician, so the support was personal assistance from a friend and not a registrable political benefit. The rules do contain an exemption for purely personal gifts or benefits, but benefits connected with a member's political activities must be registered, including those received in the 12 months before election, and both the giver's motive and the use of the gift should be considered. Crucially, the guidance adds, if there is any doubt, the benefit should be registered. If our understanding of the donations is substantially correct, Cottrell was allegedly paying for security, drivers, social media staff, accommodation used by Farage, and support that continued almost until Farage re-entered frontline politics. He wasn't just letting a friend sleep on his sofa. Particularly significant is the social media allegation. If someone is paying the salary of the person building Farage's TikTok audience, it will be hard for anyone to see that as an ordinary personal favour. What did the work entail exactly? Farage's TikTok output during 2023 was overwhelmingly political, focusing on issues such as small boat crossings and net zero that later became central Reform UK campaign themes. If Cottrell was funding the staff behind that content, then it should be much harder to argue that the support was merely personal rather than connected with Farage's political activities. Farage's claim that I wasn't an active politician is also not as straightforward as he suggests. It is true he wasn't an MP, but he was honorary president of Reform UK, one of the country's best-known political figures, and someone whose eventual return to frontline politics was a source of constant speculation. So, saying he was not involved in politics stretches credibility. The Representation of the People Act contains another new feature that touches on this, as I warned before. Parliamentary candidates will be required to declare significant financial support that they receive before officially becoming candidates, and to demonstrate that it came from legitimate sources. This closely resembles the issue currently surrounding Farage, and, if enacted, would make future arguments that I wasn't yet a candidate, or I wasn't yet an MP, impossible to sustain. Labour has been careful to frame these planned changes generally, rather than as measures targeted solely at Reform UK, and this is defensible, despite that party's claims that these proposals are solely to restrict its fundraising. If these reforms had been law before the 2024 election, some of this controversy might never have arisen. Finally, regardless of the legal outcome, this controversy opens a political problem for Farage. Stories about undeclared benefits, wealthy benefactors, cryptocurrency billionaires, aristocratic associates, and standards investigations sit awkwardly around a man whose appeal has long rested on presenting himself as an outsider taking on a privileged political class. They make Farage seem not only to be part of that class, but in fact one of the most privileged members of it. And that could undermine an image he has spent decades cultivating.